Well, hello everybody. I'm doing this live because Alberta's budget was released today. I went through a lot of it. It's explosively radical, so radical and out of control. It's unreal, unbelievable. I shouldn't say that it's believable. It's been a common theme for Alberta for a very, very long time. Um, I've been on a journey in constitutionalism, but for those who don't know, I'm a graduated economist, and early on in all the works I did, at least in the province of Alberta, I know very, very well as I ran for independence. Economics is my strong suit. I do extremely well with numbers and budgets. I can rip through them extremely fast because I've been ripping through them for more than 10 years now. Easily done for me. And this was no exception. This budget that reads like an out of control Rachel Notley. And in fact, I put a post in the title of this, just a few of them. I made a post even earlier today on the education spending in Alberta. Massive increases to education. I can't believe my Albertans continually fall for the radical bullshit presented by federal Central Crown loving tyrants who are in bed with the federal government, and they run in your provincial politics. They run all the time. They've been doing it now for out of control more than 10 years, but we're going to focus on 10 years. It's unbelievable where Alberta used to be in this confederation to where they are now. And it was Ralph Klein that really set the stage to get the federal governments, all of them, on Alberta. And as I've spent my tour of Canada, especially in the last 2 years through the pandemic, working and learning the provinces, especially Ontario, you see when these other provinces don't have the overwhelming private sector that Alberta does, especially in energy, in resource strength. And that's weaning. That's been weaning for some time. We haven't had any major projects or expansions, obviously. And Canadians, what you have to understand about Alberta is it's different than a lot of other places. When you go to the United States of America, I don't think Canadians realize this, but the amount of energy and natural resources put to market just with the United States by the province of Alberta alone blows Texas and Illinois out of the water. They're tremendously bigger states. They have a great processing. They get top dollar for their products, including Illinois, who sells back to Eastern Canada. Eastern Canada doesn't buy from Alberta and Saskatchewan. It's processed, refined, and then sold back to them through Illinois, as well as Saudi Arabia, too. They don't use Alberta energy. In fact, there's what I call the Great Wall of natural gas. We all know about the Great Lakes and how precious they are and their massive bodies of water. Well, there is a Great Lake of natural gas underneath the province of Alberta. It could easily power all of Canada, easily, every home, heat every home for very, very cheap comparatively to the entire world. Maybe Russia, not so much. I shouldn't say that about Russia. They have a large area to go through, but they do have a tremendously bigger population. Now, there's a lot of lies told since Rachel Notley's time. We've heard this 4.4 million Albertans. Oh, it's coming. Well, we know the immigration rate. I think everybody in Canada knows the immigration rate. It's absolutely tremendous. Well, Alberta holds about 13% of the country's population. That's a fact. However, the gains in population for Alberta and then the exiting migration out of Alberta certainly never lends us to 4.4 million. In fact, we had a drop in COVID, and people keep saying, oh, everybody's moving to Alberta and they're just drawing so many in. The reality is they're not, folks. For all those who go, there's a net migration as well, too. We're at 4.34 million in Alberta. Rachel Notley in 2015 said, we're going to hit 4.4 million. She thought in the coming 2 years, 2016, 2017, bragged about it, said about all this expansion. We watched, Albertans, Canadians, we watched provincial premier after premier. It was Notley for 4 years, Kenny for almost 4 years. Now we have what I call the drunken liberal sailor, Danielle Smith. I even did a post where I reddened her nose like a whiskey nose, reddened her up because she's a liberal. She's a liberal playing into absolutely Justin Trudeau because she is one with Justin Trudeau. Conservatives and liberals have always been basically one party of flip-flop agendas, always strengthening everybody else but the people of Canada, and absolutely all the First Peoples of Canada, always at the expense or liquidation of the Canadian subjects and what are defined constitutionally as the savages. And Alberta, in this confederation, unlike Illinois and Texas, who've had exorbitant revenues, and you can look at the changes of their populations. Texas has exploded. The migration into Texas has been huge, but you don't see the drunken sailor spending like you see in Alberta. Folks, in 10 years, Alberta's population, 4.14 million to 4.34 million today. A net gain of 220,000 people. That's not astronomical. Over 10 years, it's a 4.8% increase in the population of Alberta. Did you know, all Canadians, Albertans especially, your expenses over the 10 years on your budgets went up 30%. 30% in 10 years. The government is spending 30% more with only a 4.8% increase in population. Think about that. They're spending nearly 6 times as much on services for 220,000 people more net gain. Explain it to me, because you don't find that anywhere else. You don't. Not that astronomical sum. Now, I want to explain more on that in this confederation. Now we're going to take economics and we're going to go forward with constitutionalism. And what I mean by that is the Constitution of Canada. What's there for Albertans? Well, you're a have province. You have tremendous natural resource sellability, marketability, and you make the lowest values on your resources than anywhere else in the world. They get reduced. The lowest beyond Iran, nearly 40% less than sanctioned Iran, who blew up a plane, who went forward with nuclear weapons, with Russia, who invaded Ukraine. You're getting tremendously lower than they are, with nearly the entire world against them right now and under tremendous embargoes. Tremendous. Sanctions and embargoes, tremendous. And you're still getting less than they are. Less than they are by a large margin. And even with that, even within the surplus you got, which was nowhere near what they said already, they've scaled back the projections of your surplus because the expenses have gone off the chart. Now, constitutionally, folks, for provinces like Alberta, or any province, doesn't matter if it's Alberta, when you invest in services like healthcare, education, social services, we can go on and on through all of them, like the Alberta budget that Danielle Smith released. Your expenses today with Danielle Smith are $2.5 billion higher than they were a year ago, with a tremendously less surplus than just a year ago. Tremendously less. In fact, they rescaled it to now it's only going to be $2.5 billion. Why is the surplus going down? Is it because oil dropped massively? We're starting to face the negative? No, it's because Alberta spends more than they ever have before, with hardly any increase in population. Like I said, Rachel Notley lied and said in 2015 the population of Alberta will be 4.4 million in just a couple years. It never happened. 10 years later, we're only at 4.34. Danielle Smith saying, we're going to be at 4.4 in no time flat. Everyone's going to come to Alberta and there won't be any net migration out. That's a lie. Sure, new immigrants come to Canada. Sure, they go to Alberta. And sure as not, they leave Alberta to go to a place with better social services and better subsidized living, which they'll get. Why is that? Because there's an equalization formula constitutionally attached to Canada. 50% of the formula is based on your natural resource revenue. Do you know what the other half is? The other half is called like services, equal services. So when Danielle Smith puts on her red whiskey nose, whips out the surplus and starts spending it around, guess what happens? They say, oh, Danielle Smith just announced today, this year, she's going to dump $2.5 billion into education. A lot of it earmarked right now this year, and a whole pile over the next 5 years. Healthcare too, a tremendous amount, in almost $3 billion worth this year. More. And it goes on to welfare, on to policing, on to, vote for me in the election. I am spending a grandiose amount on all of you Albertans. Folks, Albertans, you do pay tremendously high taxes. Thanks to Rachel Notley in 2015, she raised up your provincial income taxes quite a bit. In fact, it went all the way up to 15 in some brackets. Traditionally, we had a flat 10%, the lowest in all the provinces. That's not true today. And with that, we watched Jason Kenney come in. At no time ever did he lower income tax for average Joe Jane Albertans. He left everything that Rachel Notley took and left it in place and enjoyed all the rewards from the overtaxed working Albertan. Now, folks, here's the problem. Our equalization formula and your expenses on the expense side that's moved up 30% and now has jumped up sizably in services, in government services for you Albertans, sizably. Oh, she cut a lot out of her expenses. Corporate fell, Huge. We've lost business in Alberta. A tremendous amount. Tremendous amount. The revenue has never been so low. COVID's over. Why isn't Alberta's business revenue going up? Well, they cut it. They cut it, folks. They cut the taxes to business, which didn't bring in any more investment and didn't grow any Alberta business. Now, the business that did grow in Alberta is service sector business because we're funding more and more and hiring more. They take that money that now gets subtracted from your federal income tax transfers because they're going to be reallocated to have-not provinces. If you didn't realize, your federal income tax as a working Canadian anywhere you are is tremendously higher than any province income tax. The federal's the highest. They take that portion and they move it to other portions of other provinces who don't have those services as high as Alberta's. In the next 4 years, it's going to be $16 billion more spent in Alberta than the rest of the have-not provinces. Albertans are going to have to pay that out of their federal income tax, which means your transfers, which means your surpluses that Danielle Smith tells you today, after having legislature prorogued for 2 months, so no one could talk about anything. Pretty smart, eh? Election coming. You talk about socialism. This country is built on divine socialism. If you haven't figured it out already, this has been the story of Alberta since the end of Ralph Klein. It was the beginning of Stephen Harper's reign of federal crown terror. Nobody gets ahead in this country, and they keep everybody down to their divine benefit. What new services are Albertans are getting? Because they're not. The services have gotten worse and worse and worse. You pay more money, not for any explosive population gains. There's no explosion in population. In the last 10 years, 4.8%. That's how much Alberta's increased. Your expenses have increased 30%. And now, with Danielle Smith, they're exploding again. You're going to be over $71 billion for the province of Alberta, with a net gain of 220,000 people. Means your expenses went from 48 million a year to going to be 71 million a year within a year's time. All on services you can't afford, that now you're going to have to take from your federal income tax that you pay into Canada and pay it out to the have-not provinces. Welcome to the truth. That's my budget. I can't wait to see what the Fraser Institute and the Canadian Taxpayers Federation has to say about that. Thanks. That's my video. Bye now.